And then show me people who have been in the district for 1 to 2 years. Are they different? Do our tenured staff feel better or feel worse? So I can't really tell you, is 41% high or low. It really varies depending on the district. But the power here is you'll be able to disaggregate data and see how are different groups of people feeling. Same message here in this particular question. As long as you don't get to a pool of people that is 5 or fewer, our district will say, or excuse me, our system will say, sure, you want to see O'Connell Falls High School classroom teachers who have between 1 and 5 years of experience. Great, and our district and our data and our system can put that together for you, so that you can really get some powerful data here in terms of, how do they feel versus how do the elementary school teachers feel? How does our support staff feel? And really, the permutations are endless here. But the message is that is what you can and should do is noodle on this for a while and see how different groups of your staff are feeling. Some of this data I'll go through a little bit more quickly because it takes quite a while to go through every single one of these items. So in lieu of reading through every single item and telling you the score, what I want to use here is a little bit of a teachable moment to say how I approach the data and how to properly read the data. So if and when you are reflecting on this data, what is it that I'm looking for and what is it that I would recommend you looking for in your particular seats? So the way this is set up is every single item in the survey is included here, and every single one of those items are on the far left-hand side. The percentage of people that agree or strongly agree is in the second column. Your average is in the third column, and then your comparison average is on the far right-hand side. So how do we get the averages? Well, the answer there is really quite simple. If I say, as a staff member who took this survey, if I strongly agree with an item, behind the scenes, my score is given a weight of 5. If I agree, weight of 4. If I disagree, weight of 2. If I strongly disagree, weight of 1. So the middle of that data set is 3. The reason I take time to point that out is any score that is above 3 is the side of the fence that you want to be on, because every single one of our items are written and phrased in such a way where in an ideal world, you'd have every single person strongly agreeing. That never happens. That is very much an ideal world situation. But in no situation do you want people to strongly disagree. You want people to be on the agree side of things. So that means a score of 3 or above. And that's exactly what I'm seeing here. And in terms of Workday, you're seeing a lot of high items. So what am I seeing? So for instance, when I'm reading this, I have access to the technology support I need. 99% of your staff either agree or strongly agree there. So if I was making my to-do list, that is not where I would start, because clearly that is something that is going very well for the school district of O'Connell Falls, and your average bears that out. You're between agree and strongly agree there at a score of 4.43, and very close behind by a difference of 1/100th of a point. I have the technology I need to do my job well at a score of 4.42. And then one other one that catches my eye here, because it's so foundational, is I feel safe at work. This goes for any stakeholder group. If students don't feel safe at school, they can't learn. If staff members don't feel safe at school, they can't be an effective custodian, they can't be an effective secretary, they can't be an effective food service worker, they can't be an effective librarian, they can't be an effective classroom teacher. So the good news is that 96% of your staff agree or strongly agree with that. But kind of to that disaggregation point, you can work backwards as well, and you could say, well, show me the people who agree or strongly, or excuse me, show me the people who disagree or strongly disagree. Tell me what they think. Show me what those 4% are feeling, and then you could say, are there any patterns? Have they been here for a short period of time, long period of time? Are they all instructional staff? Are they all classroom teachers? Is it varied? And so work backwards as well when you're thinking about how to use this data moving forward. Rounding out the workday, you have one more that's above 4, which is awesome. I have the materials and supplies I need to do my job well. And all 3 of your remaining workday items are still above that score of 3 threshold that I look for, which is most days I look forward going to work. I feel comfortable sharing input and concerns with my supervisor or administrator, and the amount of work I am asked to do is reasonable or manageable. Very similar in terms of environment. You have one score that is well above 4 with 97% agreement. Our staff does a good job of educating our students. The remainder of the page, all again above, are either 2/3 agreement or above. The opportunities for training or PD All students in our school are respected for their values and beliefs. And in the last year, I received useful feedback to help improve my work. There are only 2 in the environment section that fall below that level of 3.00 that I look at. And in fact, there are only 3 items in your survey in total that fall below 3, and 2 of them are on your screen right here. And they both relate to discipline, consistency in discipline, and are the policies and practices we have for discipline effective. I don't know if you're in good company. I don't know that I'd use the word good, but you are in a very large set of company. We give staff surveys like this across the country. Very recently in Texas and Colorado. I was in Pennsylvania last week. I don't think I can remember the last time I gave a staff survey where I haven't seen these 2 items be at the bottom. Everybody is in this position. This is not an O'Connell Falls thing. This is not a Wisconsin thing. This is not a Midwest thing. This is a nationwide thing. And I mentioned to Dean as we were seeing this data coming in, boy, if you have an answer for what districts should do here, I think you got a 7-figure salary coming your way, because a lot of people want the answer as to how do we improve discipline. You are in a very, very large pool of company. The one thing I would say here that stands out is, you're below 3 on these 2, you still are at majority. Either 50% or 51% are still agreeing or strongly agreeing with this. And so that's interesting, because when I'm not looking at scores, the other thing that I'm looking at is the percentage here. So, of the items that we've seen so far, again, thinking back on that to-do list, clearly your staff are saying, we need help with discipline. So if I were sitting in your shoes, that is one place I would go to say, okay, how can we help our staff on this particular metric? But again, this is not uncommon data by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. In terms of support, a few more items in this section. Your highest overall scoring item was all students in our school are given equitable opportunities to learn and experience success. And in terms of your top 3, a few close that were just a little bit behind. Our school supports students from diverse backgrounds, and I feel supported by my supervisor or administrator when I make a decision. I do want to go down, just for the interest of time, I apologize, I do need to be in Toma in a few minutes. So I want to go down to the bottom of the support, because there is one item here that caught my eye for 2 reasons. One, it's the 3rd and final item in the survey that was below 3. And it's the only item in your staff survey that didn't garner a majority. So the one item that was below 50% where the district's pay practices are fair. So again, if I were in your shoes, this is where I'd want to spend some time with the data and say, okay, how can we communicate with our staff to better understand what their thoughts are in terms of the pay, what's going well, what's not going well, and are there compensation levers that we need to pull in order to change what our district is, or what our staff are unhappy about in this particular section. Our school supports equitable opportunities for. Here, no item is below 3. In fact, they're all hovering around 4, which is your agree to strongly agree metric. And the lowest item is at 85%. Something's got to be the lowest here, but it's still quite high. The only 2 that fall below 4 are different racial backgrounds and different cultural backgrounds. But overall, there's quite a bit to celebrate here. But this too kind of begs me the question: is it primarily classroom teachers that feel differently? Is it administrators that feel differently? Is it instructional aides and paraprofessionals? So this might too be one area where I work backwards and say, well, there's always room for improvement. Are there particular groups that feel like we're doing differently in serving different populations of students? The next 2 slides are no different in terms of new information. There is nothing new in the next 2 slides. These are your top 5 scores. So I pooled together the environment, the support, and the workday pages and said, well, of those 3 pages, what are the top 5 that float to the top? The technology that we talked about, that's going very well. I feel safe at work was the 3rd highest scoring item. 4th was our staff does a good job of educating our students. And 5th was I have healthy working relationships with my coworkers. Bottom 5, again, the one that we talked about that fell below majority, the district's pay practices are fair. And the only other 2 that were below 3 were related to discipline. And then finally, the other 2 lowest that had a tied score of 3.12 were seeking input from a broad group of staff members, and our parents and community support the school district. Your indexes, I won't read through all of these individually, but I will tell you the way that you want to use these indexes is by approaching them maybe from strategic planning framework. But what these indexes are saying here is school perceptions creates these indexes that are fed by key questions that are nested throughout the survey. So for instance, academics. We are effective in teaching and supporting our students. The same scale here. Can't be better than a 5, can't be worse than a 1. So I do the same thing that I did before. Are there any scores here that are below 3? If so, what are they? That's not you. All of these are above 3. And then if they're all above 3, then are there ones that are lower or higher? But these I don't spend a whole lot of time on in year 1, simply because you need some time to let your data matriculate through over the next couple of years and say, are we making progress on these indexes in ways that we expect? And which of these indexes are above or below our comparisons? And there's really none here that are vastly out of whack. You know, if you were a full point or two below your comparison, I would really spend some time driving this home, and you're really not, you know. And so the way that I read this is I would pause and I would say, okay, academics. Well, what does that mean? Well, what is school perceptions trying to tell us here? Academics is we are effective in teaching and supporting our students. Those key questions created a score of 3.44, which is only 0.03 of a point away from our comparison at a score of 3.47. Now, is there always room for improvement? Sure, we'd love to get that as close to 5 as we can, but really these need some time to see how these are going forward in the future. Lastly, were your overall comment theme analyses. So these are things that we put together for you because you hired us to do this work. Your 5 major themes that we interpreted from your qualitative data, in other words, from your comments, were: respondents highlighted a decline in morale, climate, and peer-to-peer relationships. 2, respondents continued to rely on their peers for support and well-being. So yes, we want to work on our peer-to-peer relationships, but I, as a staff member, at least in O'Connell Falls, seem to get my backbone, seem to get a lot of my support from my peers. 3, respondents expressed a concern about an increasing workload. 4, respondents want to see improved communication among staff and district leaders. And 5, respondents want more consistent and effective approaches to discipline. So here again, if I were in your shoes, I would say, okay, what can we learn about improving discipline based on what our qualitative data is telling us? Remember though, not everybody leaves a comment. Anybody who chooses to take the survey will provide quantitative data. Not everybody does choose to leave a comment, but this is an excellent place to learn why people are saying what they are. Finally, then, in terms of your overall average, you're pretty darn close to the average. You're about 0.2 of a point off. But this particular question, summative question, read on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to recommend the district as a place of employment? You're kind of hovering between 6 and 7, and that's about where your average is. The overall average is 6.64, and you're at an average of 6.42. Here too, cross-section of data. I am curious to see how this goes as you have the opportunity to improve your scores over the next couple of years. So I apologize. The TOMA board meeting is starting at 7, so I know I had to fly through that. I really do apologize for having to do that in your open session here. But I guess what I'd say is if you do have questions, by all means, send them to Dean's way. For better or worse, Dean knows how to find me at this point. He knows my number, he knows my email address, and he knows how to find me. So anything real quick though, anything catch your eye that I can at least help out with in the next 30 seconds?
I think this was good, Rob. Just for people in the audience or people online, we did spend the last hour and a half with Rob. That's the closed session, so we went into more detail than what he reviewed here. But we thought it prudent to show the data as well in open session so people could see it. So great data, great information, and looking forward to what the district can do to, make some improvements in some of the areas that were noted. So thanks, Rob. Go off to your other meeting.
Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
We just had to swap out, so the live wasn't quite working because of him remotely in. So Corey can help me. We're just going to switch into a live session for the next session, and I recorded this. So
okay.